trying to get a few more chairs. Of course, we knew that the town would be interested, and we knew no matter how big the room was, we need a bigger room and we need more chairs. But I apologize if people are standing, but we will try to make it all worth your while here. Get a few more in. So my name's Ted Brady. Can you hear me in the back? All right, thank you. What a weird question to ask, right? But thank you. I'm Ted Brady, so I'm the Deputy Secretary for the Agency of Commerce and Community Development. And for folks that don't know, the Agency of Commerce and Community Development is a statewide agency that houses three different departments: the Department of Economic Development, the Department of Housing and Community Development, and the Department of Tourism and Marketing. And we are the state agency that helps downtowns thrive. We're the state agency that administers about 30 different grant programs to help everything from historic barns to affordable housing, you name it, everything in between. But most importantly, we're a partner of a municipality. And shortly after hearing the news that Green Mountain College would be closing, it became clear that this municipality needed every advocate it could possibly have and needed every partner could possibly get to help you envision the future of Poultney without this anchor institution in your downtown. The Governor Scott, asked the Agency of Commerce to come and meet with your town, and so you all know, this is that meeting. The vision of coming and having a conversation with Paul has turned into this incredible town meeting where we can have a conversation and learn from you about what you're concerned about, what you see as the vision, and then for us to reflect on that and become your allies in making that a reality. Before I go into some quick introductions of other people here, I simply want to say that we at the Agency of Commerce recognize the enormity of the news to such a small, incredible town, but we also recognize the assets you have in this community. We also recognize that you have one of the most picturesque, beautiful downtowns. You have a town government that's really functioning. You have a great senior center. You have a great library. You have great schools. You look at all these things, and we see Poultney as a fantastic example of a close-knit Vermont community that has done so many great things for themselves. We also see this school and Green Mountain College as an asset, but not just the school. We see this campus as an asset. We see a couple hundred dormitory rooms as an asset. We see a biomass heat plant, the only college campus that's carbon neutral as an asset. We see every one of these 22 buildings as an asset. And as you probably feel the same way as I feel, one of the strongest assets you have, right, are the people that inhabit these buildings. The staff, the faculty, the several hundred young people that are here in Poultney that have contributed so much to this community. We're trying to hear what you think the next step should be. We're trying also to say we want to build a team of advocates to help you implement those next steps and take advantage of those assets. So before I go any further, we invited about a dozen to 24 community and economic development experts from around the state of Vermont to Poultney today to hear and to talk about the future of Poultney. And I'm just simply going to ask that each stand up, identify themselves, introduce themselves, where they're from, in about 15 to 30 seconds. And because he's right in front of me, I'd like to start with Paul.
Paul Broom from the Preservation Trust of Vermont.
Could people speak louder? You can try that. And I know. I'm not sure that we have AV functionality today, so we will try to be, microphone, so we'll try to be nice and loud. But Ben, take it nice and loud.
I'm Ben Doyle. I'm the Associate Director for USDA Rural Development for Vermont and New Hampshire.
I'm Martin Hahn. I'm the Housing Director of the Vermont Housing and Conservation Board.
Chris Saunders, the Senator Patrick Leahy's office.
Ross Hanford, Commissioner of Housing and Community Development.
Can't hear people from the back up here to the front.
Josh Hanford, Commissioner of Housing and Community Development. Tyler Richardson, Director of Rutland Economic Development Corporation. Good morning.
Assistant Director for Economic Development.
I'm Brett Long, I'm Deputy Commissioner of the Department of Economic Development.
Michael Harrington, Deputy Commissioner, Department of Labor.
Wendy Morris, Regional Manager, Vermont Department of Labor.
Lauren Carroll, I'm Executive Director of the Vermont League of Cities and Towns.
Gary Holloway, I'm the Downtown Program Manager with Department of Housing and Community Development.
Awkward. Good morning, everyone. I'm Karen Colbor, the President of Castleton University.
I know there's a few more of you hiding.
Frank Koster, one of the co-founders of Vermont Works.
Dennis Moynihan with the Vermont Innovation Commons.
Seth Baumgart for the National Development Council.
Michael Moser, Center for Rural Studies, Vermont State Data Center.
You missing?
Paul Costello, I'm the Executive Director of Vermont Council on Rural Development.
Great. We're also joined by several representatives of your delegation to Montpelier. I know I saw Representative McCoy, Senator Hooker. Who am I missing? Robin Chestnut, help me. I always group it up.
Chestnut Tangerman.
Thank you, Robin. Sorry.
It's a tough one.
All right.
Ted.
And of course,
Paul Donaldson, Town and Village Manager of Poultney.
And I'm Ed Bove with the Rutland Regional Planning Commission.
excellent. So the way we're going to start this off is I know that several of you, all of you from the town, know a lot about this town. The people you just heard about, we've invited them here to learn more about your town. So we want to set the stage, and we asked Paul, your town manager, to lead things off, to give us a little overview of the town in about 5 to 10 minutes. We're going to follow that by some remarks from Michael Moser from the University of Vermont to talk about some statistics here in town, and then Ed Bove from the Rutland Regional Planning Commission. And then we're going to start a real dialogue with you folks about the future. So Paul, I'd like to turn the floor over to you, if that's all right.
Sure. I tried to put some remarks together, and first and foremost, I want to thank Ted for spearheading this meeting, and for all the participants from throughout the state who have come. I had written down some of the names, but I think you've covered it with the introduction, so thanks for doing that, Ted. That means you can hear less of me and more from you folks. So Ted asked me to kind of give a debriefing of what Poultney is about, and you know, my family's lived in Poultney for about 10 years, and we love it here. Poultney's a community that it's about 3,500 people, roughly. It's comprised of many different layers of types of people. There's multi-generational families that have been here for, you know, some of them can trace their roots back to the Revolutionary War, their family being here. It's a recreation destination, so there's a lot of people coming for skiing in the lakes region, with Lake St. Catherine being in town and the proximity of Lake Bomazine and different small lakes. So there's a lot of mix of summer type people, snowbirds. There's also a lot of, it's a bedroom community in some sense. There's a lot of people that live in this community that work, that commute to work. There's a lot of people that live in this community that work here. There's the slate quarry industry, which goes back hundreds of years. The best slate that you can find in the world is right here. Probably all these buildings are covered in slate that was harvested right from Poultney. There's a lot of artists and intellectuals in Poultney. There's been a big upsurge of community members putting together different art programs, and just a resurgence of community spirit, and there's a lot of that. There's naturally there's a lot of families where their parents work and on this campus, so that's going to be a challenge for Poultney, and certainly for those families that are affected by the closure. generally, there's a lot of people that have come here that, I've touched on the people that are, that have been here for generations, but there's a lot of people that come to this community for a quality of life. I mean, I'm not from Poultney originally, but I came here for a quality of life. And I know a number of faces here that, the same thing. Poultney is not just people that live here. There's surrounding small communities that shop here, that do their, that socialize here, that participate in activities that the town has to offer. So I touched briefly on the recreation aspect of it. In the last 3 to 4 years, there's been a very big upswing of the Slate Valley Trails, building mountain bike trails, and that's brought a lot of different perspective to the town. There's a lot of people that participate in agriculture in this area. Even a lot of people that have graduated from Green Mountain College have stayed here, and that's a big thing. There's farmers, that actually graduated from the school and decided life is so good here, let's stay here. So I think, Ted asked me to be brief, and so I've tried to be brief. In short, I think Poultney is a community of hard-working people. They're not afraid to roll up their sleeves, do what needs to be done, facing challenges. And I think it's just proof to all the people that are here that, this is an important thing for Poultney. And I believe strongly that with the college leaving, that something positive can come out of that. And I think if we all put our heads together, and with the assistance of people like Ted and everyone else that introduced themselves earlier, I think we can really make something that's a negative now, and it's hard. Change is hard. We all know that. And sometimes we don't want to change. We want things to be the same. But I think now is a time to realize a change can be a good thing. And let's see if we can make something out of this in a positive light. And let's turn it back over to Ted and see what we can brainstorm. Thank you.
So thank you, Paul. Nice to have kind of the heartfelt picture of what this community sees itself as. We also have the opportunity to look at data and say, what is this town, right? What are the demographics of this town? And that's why we asked the University of Vermont Center for Rural Studies and Michael Mosier to give us a quick overview of kind of what this town is made up of, data points. Before going to that, I just simply want to reiterate something I think I said, but I want to say it again. Today's not about answers. Today is about an opportunity for us to talk about the situation, the assets that this community has, the challenges this community faces, and starting to talk about building a coalition to overcome those challenges and take advantage of those assets. So that's really what today is about. I just don't want people to expect to get answers today. I want people to know that we're starting a conversation and you're getting buy-in from a statewide network of people that care about Poultney. And Michael Mosier at UVM is one of them. Michael, all yours. There's a few more seats up front in case people need them.
So Ted gave me 5 minutes, so we'll see what happens here.
Nice and loud, Mike. I know it's a...
Yes, I will project. So I'm from the Vermont State Data Center, which is funded in part by the Vermont Agency of Commerce and Community Development. Some of the work that I do includes data trainings, responding to data requests, developing these community profiles for different nonprofit organizations, and community visits like this one. We can serve as a data resource for folks that are involved in processes around community economic development here in Poultney or anywhere in the state. And so today I'm just here to just really quickly go through some general demographics about your community with a little bit of trend analysis and comparative analysis. Poultney's long-term population over time hasn't really changed that much. We see that it's been hovering around, 3,000 to 3,500 people over the long term. And wow, you really can't see the colors on there, but you can see the words, which is important. Pulteney's recent population change, there has been a slight decline. It's a greater decline than the state of Vermont's population decline. Both of these declines are within margins of error. So we're not really sure if the state's losing people or not exactly. Pulteney may or may not be losing people as well. But what's important is that Pulteney's recent population change is sort of very much well within the sort of standards that you've seen in the long-term population trend over time. Income and poverty in Pulteney, because I can't read it. Oh, I can read it from here. There we go. Pulteney has lower household incomes than Vermont and the U.S. medians. You can see median household income on the top there, and you see 2 different years of data. You see that, again, Pulteney's median household income 2013-2017 was around $49,400. That's roughly $8,000 less than the median household income across the state of Vermont, and as well as the U.S. median household income. Poverty rate in Pulteney, there are a higher percentage of folks in Pulteney that are experiencing poverty than in Vermont or in the U.S. overall. So considerations, I'm not going to make any assumptions or delve into this too much. Labor force participation. Pulteney's labor force participation rates are lower than both Vermont's and the U.S. labor force participation rates as well. Unemployment rate trend, Pulteney has a slightly higher unemployment rate than the state overall, and that unemployment rate is tracking pretty close to the state's unemployment rate and following it pretty closely. It's headed downward. We do have data about jobs by NAICS industry category. What's important here, and I do have the slides available, I do have some printouts, not enough for everyone unfortunately, but what we can see is, I was thinking about educational services when I was thinking about this, and we see that Pulteney has about 27% of folks engaged in educational services, healthcare, and social assistance in the town. That compares to Vermont's 28% and the U.S. 23%. There may be some variations in here. I'm not really sure, what the conversation would be around some of these different industries, but the idea is to provide these data and to show Pulteney, the community, where some of the strengths and weaknesses may lie. And we can do additional analysis and look at some of the trends in some of these industry categories over time to see what industries are increasing and what industries are decreasing over time. So commuting patterns, these data are also federal data coming from the U.S. Census Bureau. There are approximately, and this is not an exact count of jobs, but it's full and part-time jobs of certain types. I think it discounts some federal jobs. There's approximately, at least in this analysis, about 956 jobs in Pulteney. Of those, about 706 or 74% are being filled by folks living outside of the community. And about 26% of Pulteney's jobs are filled by those living in the community. And again, maybe trend analysis gives you an idea as to how these things are changing and what's the story behind this sort of snapshot picture. And then there are about, let's see, the jobs that are filled, let's see, what's important here. Jobs outside Pulteney filled by those living in Pulteney. So there's about 1,100 folks in Pulteney that are going outside of the community every day to their jobs. Travel to work, let's reference this here. Pulteney looks very similar to the rest of the state of Vermont when it comes to some of these, I hope everyone can read that, when it comes to some of these travel to work indicators, percent driving alone. I didn't find anything all that interesting here other than the second to last row, average travel time to work. Folks in Poultney are driving less than the Vermont average and less than the US average when they go to work. So that means that maybe the work shed is a little bit smaller here in this community, and there's less of that long distance commuting happening. And that's also seen in the final row where only 2.5% of Poultney residents are traveling 60 minutes or more. So relatively speaking, folks in Poultney are traveling less to get to their work. Of interest is the housing unit characteristics. Poultney has about 1,740 housing units. I'm sure that your town manager would probably dispute that number, but these are sample data, so let's just work with that. What's important is that we might want to look at the trends over time again, or comparing percentage rates, like the vacancy percentage, which is that second row. Poultney has a relatively high vacancy rate. Housing vacancy rate compared to the state and to the U.S., obviously. So about 28% vacancy here in Poultney compared to 22% across the state of Vermont, generally speaking. And sort of hand in hand with that is a high recreational seasonal vacancy rate, about 18% compared to Vermont's 16%, and you compare that to the U.S. average of 4%. So we, as the gentleman before me mentioned, there's a high seasonal, residential group of folks here in the community. And then Poultney has about 75% owner-occupied housing and about 36% renter-occupied housing, with a rental vacancy rate that is 7.5%. compared to Vermont's rental vacancy rate of 4%. So again, housing pressure isn't really as much of a pressure in Poultney as it is in other places, and I'll stop there. Poultney's housing cost characteristics, briefly. We see the median value of owner-occupied housing units in Poultney is lower than the state average and lower than the national average as well. I'm sorry, median, lower than the state median and lower than the national median. Gross rents in Poultney are lower than the state's gross rents overall as well. And housing affordability, briefly. Let's see.
Nice and loud. Mike.
Yes, nice and loud, nice and loud. Housing affordability for owners. This is the percent of, so this is housing units with a mortgage, and this is just, you might want to look at the last row, the percent of folks in Poultney that are spending 35% or more of their household income on housing. It's right in line with the state and even the national averages. But Poultney does have a higher percentage, that second row, 45.6% of residents are spending less than 20% of their household income in housing units with a mortgage. So again, sort of illustrates that housing demand isn't as much of a demand in Poultney as it is in other places in the state. And the same is true for renters. There's relatively fewer renters paying a high percentage of their household income in Poultney than there are in other across the state of Vermont. So that's my 5 minutes, was 10 now, okay, but thank you all. And the idea is that I'm a resource. I've got a few of these printed out, so I'll hand out to the first folks that ask for them. And, I'm here to answer any of your data questions. I don't know if I'm here to answer them right now.
Can you email those? Can you email those?
So, just to keep our program on, I want to keep moving. We'll come back to questions during our conversation part. We will email these to Paul, and Paul and I will find a way to make sure that they are accessible to the entire community. So if you don't get a copy today, you can get a copy online. So we'll make sure to get those to Paul and publicize how to get those. Thank you, Michael.
Yeah. Do Do we want to get
Yes.
the slides up?
So our next presentation is from Ed Bove. So you heard about kind of what you are when it comes to data. We're going to ask now Ed Bove from the Rutland Regional Planning Commission to talk about kind of where we're trying to get to, right, as a community, and where we're trying to plan for the future. I had them up here, so I can do this. You distract them, Ed, with your humor and. Yes, I can make this.
Hi, I'm Ed with the Rutland Regional Planning Commission, and I think I have about 0 minutes now to speak, so I'm going to make this quick and show you some pictures. And I've been really looking forward to talking to this group. I'm thrilled at how big it is here today to see everyone from Poultney and probably other towns. At the RPC, we work with 27 towns, and Poultney, like the rest of them, they all go through growing and the other way. And what I want to talk to you about is design in the town. And it's a little data, but it's more of the biggest asset that I feel the town has that Ted spoke about a minute ago. And we are up, I think.
You're live, buddy.
Okay. So, and I apologize to those who've heard me or seen me talk about this probably way too many times, but it's the thing I like talking about most is design, and I think it's the core of what any great community is and what any community can build on. So I've just focused here on the downtown itself. East Poultney, I'll show some slides of later, but the engine of the town, where it really grows from, is the core. And looking at that, you can see where we are. We're on the far left there, the college campus, Main Street right down the middle, and then the train track running north and south. You can see how the town was created in this traditional grid-like pattern, which is some of the things that with new trends and even old trends, this is how places grew. This is how cities grew for thousands of years, because they're resilient, because they make money, because they can grow incrementally, just ways that don't really happen now so much with new development.
You can scroll down.
Okay.
I'll center you while you talk.
Okay. This is an older slide, but and I'll read it a little bit quickly here. The characteristics of a livable community. And if you look at what those are, that's what you have here in Poultney. Attractive town center, like Ted spoke about. 5-minute walk if you're around the downtown. Civic buildings, mixed uses, pedestrian-friendly streets, high connectivity. You know, those are things that make the place livable. Those are the assets we have. And going a little deeper into that, so what makes that? How do you fit that into that overview of Poultney that we were looking at earlier? Top left, it says, well versus poorly defined street spaces. Check, we have that here. Human versus auto-scaled blocks. Check. Human versus auto-scaled buildings. We've got that. I've zoomed in a little bit closer, just to, you can see those points of everything that just came out, what is going on in the core. And Poultney hasn't really spread out too much on the edges yet, so you're seeing that that is really the bones of the community, the development pattern that you're going to build around, that you're going to keep building around. This is a little bit of the old and the new. This is the old, again, thousands of years of development and strong communities built that way. And then what we see now, which is a little different. I'm not going to say it's good or bad, but as I go through the slides, you might see how maybe why Poultney, living in this world right here, will have advantages over this part. I always show this slide just from a planning point of view, and I know you probably didn't think there would be math today, but there's formulas and planners that have gone through to figure out what makes people comfortable when you're walking down the street. Why does it feel good when you're walking on the same 5-foot piece of sidewalk in one place where someplace else you just don't feel that feeling? What is that? It's a ratio here, and the core of Poultney, you know, that's what the town has. And I don't want to get that one. Okay. So why? You know, really, that's great. It looks great. It feels great. But why does that matter? You know, how is that going to keep things going for the town? Well, it matters because a lot of research is showing that that's what makes towns money, is growth like this. That looks just like the slides I showed you of Poultney, as opposed to something like this, which not saying it's bad, but the point of the presentation is to show that you have a lot of this, and this is good. This is a slide from John Adams, DCGI now, who took the property tax value per acre and mapped it over the town that's developed. And you can see where the property tax values are the highest. They're highest in the core. They're highest in places that are showing all the signs of a livable community that was earlier. This is in North Carolina, but it's also the same thing. This pattern replicates itself throughout the country. Going a little deeper into that, you can really figure out, money-wise, what types of structures are making your town the most money. Look at 2-story mixed use, 3-story mixed use. That's what the town is full of. Those are things to build the town around. This is just showing the properties in town in the boundaries. And the reason I show this is to show that in the core here, even in East Poultney over here, you're seeing lots of smaller properties which would allow redevelopment of some type. It's easier to agglomerate smaller properties, have them be something else, than if you have a few large landowners. You'll be able to take a lot of this and this and just build on what you have a lot easier because of the way the property is set up. And this one is hard to see, but I just ask you to imagine those slides I was showing with the vertical bars earlier. We haven't done the research for Poultney yet, but you can bet that this right here is going to show the highest value per acre, probably up here as well too. And then if that's the case, the message on that is to have plans, have bylaws. That's what we do at the Planning Commission, but have documents and ordinances that allow that type of incremental growth to happen, that allow you to build on the asset, which is your downtown, which is, in my opinion, the strongest bone, the bones of the town. My final slide here just talks about that traditional type of development, which you have already. Your infrastructure costs are much lower. Your service costs to service that infrastructure is also lower. And then the data is showing, you know, it's about 10 times tax revenue per acre greater with a traditional type of development than something else. And in closing, I just want to say that, to follow on what Ted was saying, that is a huge asset for the town, is to have this that we're in right now. Not so much data to go along with that, but the point is, when we're moving forward and thinking about how we want to grow, I just would like everyone to think about growing in something that you already have without trying to go and recreate something that might not be time tested and might not work for the community. So, thank you. Oh. What's that? Sure. One other thing I've been told to tell you about 2 seconds ago, that we're currently working with a consultant who's in the back there right there, that's Rachel from Camoin Associates. And through a gracious municipal planning grant from the state of Vermont, we're doing an economic assessment plan for the downtown area. So what we use from today is going to go into that plan, which will give us a platform to maybe reflect some of the reflections from the day or what we get out of today. So
That's it.
Yeah.
Sorry to put you on the spot. Thank you. So we talked a little about who we are. We talked a little about who we could be. We have to talk about why we're here, right? And President Bob Allen from Green Mountain College was kind enough to offer to kind of just give an update as to what the status of one of the biggest pieces of our community, of your community, is up to right now. And we know the select board has heard from him, and I want to be clear, I don't expect have more answers than he's able to give us today, but it was important to set the stage and say, this is where we know we are as a campus, this is where we know we are as a part of your community, and this is where we know we're going today. And then we can have a conversation, and I believe Bob and his team are sticking around during the brainstorming session, where some of these things could get fleshed out a little more if need be. So, Bob, I think you're up. Thanks.
Well, thank you, Ted, and thanks to Paul for pulling this together. I don't think Tom Ross-Pugh and my assistant Jerry Fitzgerald also helped. Jerry never gets a lot of credit, so I'd like to credit Jerry for helping to pull this together. I've been at the college for just 3 years. Tom, who's here today as well, has been here for 21 years. It has been the best job in my life, and for the last month or so, the most difficult job in my life. I've never taken anything apart, had to close anything. It is, as you all know, a tragedy, but it's one that I worked very hard to avoid. And I'd like to talk just for a few minutes about, to kind of put the context to going forward, because Ted's asked me to talk about plans going forward, and I will. But I want to put it a little bit in context so you know what we've done over the last, at least over the last couple of years, and Tom would say that everything I'm going to say we've been doing for 21 years here at the college. So when I arrived in 2016, we had years and years of declining enrollment. We had peaked at about 775 undergraduate students around 2010. And when I arrived that first year, we had just under 450. So that's really like a 45% decline in undergraduate enrollment. During that time, it was a big initiative to grow the graduate program, starting from a very small base to about 250 undergraduate students, which is where we are today. It's still not enough. So the cost of operating this campus is not covered by, we started this year with 427 undergraduate students, and about that same number, about 250 graduate students. It results in an operating deficit of about $5 million. And again, Tom would say that this is the life he's had for the last 21 or so years. In addition to that, as you probably all know, and certainly the state people know, that the high school graduation population in the Northeast has been declining for many years. And that affects us. I mean, most students go to college within 150, some say 180 miles of where they grew up. So that really limits the population that we've been drawing from. Although we draw most of our students from out of state, and that's an important thing for this group to know. 83% of our students come from out of state, only 17% are actually Vermonters. When I arrived in 2016, we were looking at, I was told we were going to have an incoming class, freshmen and transfers, of about 220, and only 160 arrived. So we had about a $2.5 million budget deficit the first year. In addition to that, and those of you who are in higher ed or stay in touch with higher ed, the discount rate for colleges, especially small private colleges, have been rising. Ours has risen from about 50% to this year's incoming class, freshman class, the discount rate went to 70%. So we discounted our tuition 70%. In addition to that, it's been very difficult raising annual funds for a small college like Green Mountain College. Historically, the college has raised about $500,000 a year. The first year I was here, with the help of the board, I was able to raise about $1.2 million. The last year, that got cut in half. I only raised about half that, about $600,000. So if you put all that together, it resulted in the annual deficit that I spoke about. Early on, that very fall, I started talking to the USDA, and I said it on the tour earlier, I'll say it again, I'll probably repeat it even later today. It's been a partnership with the USDA from day one. They really came to the table, quite frankly, when we needed them, and they've been a partner ever since. As we look forward to plans for the future, they are still at the table, and they're working with us on solutions for the future. So quickly, I'll go through some of the steps that we've taken. We tried to reduce expenses. We did. In the first year, we reduced about $600,000 out of our operating budget. We rebranded the college. Many of you in the room know we call ourselves First in Sustainability, and I think we own that honestly. We were the first college, I think one of the first colleges in the country to kind of put a stake in the ground on sustainability. So we rebranded the college. We invested more in marketing to draw more students to Pulteney and to Green Mountain College. Unsuccessfully, I might add. So for the last 2 years, Our first-year enrollment has been at 147, so we're only able to bring in less than 150 first-year students each year. We've continued to try to reduce expenses, but you can only reach a certain point. About 18 months ago, and now I've been saying 18 months for a while, so it's probably coming close to 2 years, I started seeking out partnerships with other institutions. I didn't go outside Vermont in the beginning because I approached several institutions inside Vermont, four to be exact. 2 were public, 2 were private. I've had extensive conversations and with 2 of those. As of even a couple of months ago, those were still alive. But in the end, neither of those institutions was willing to sort of merge or form a partnership with Green Mountain College. I went outside the state, actually as far away as Pittsburgh, and found an institution that was willing to talk. Tom and I spent a couple of days in Pittsburgh a while back. Again, got early discussions on merging or actually having them acquire Green Mountain College, and those ultimately fell apart. In addition to that, we've looked at restructuring the college. We have been stuck at this 450, or let's just even call it 400 undergraduate students for a while. So we looked at restructuring and what that would take to have our operating expenses and our operating revenue meet. We came up with actually 3 different models, all of which required transitional capital. They would just not simply be able to be implemented in 1 year and be successful. Candidly, we've run out of capital. And so all of those scenarios did not work. I mentioned the USDA as a partner. So for the last, certainly since the announcement on January 23rd, a day I will never forget, when we announced that the college was closing, we've been working very directly with the USDA to envision what this campus might be going forward. There are people in the room, I won't identify them, but there are people in the room that we've been working with. And I won't identify them because we are, in all cases, we're operating under a non-disclosure agreement, so I won't identify them. It's up to them if they wish to offer anything today, but there are at least 3 opportunities that are very active. I've given, in addition, or actually if you include the tour I gave today to part of this group, I've given 3 campus tours just this week. So there are people that are interested in this campus. For those of you who live in the community, have walked around the campus, you know it shows really well. It is exactly what people expect to see when they come to a New England college campus. By and large, all our buildings are maintained. They function exactly the way they're supposed to function. So we do have opportunities that are current. I will continue to explore those. And as I said, I'm getting full cooperation from the U.S. Department of Agriculture, which has been a great partner. They are not a traditional, we did borrow money from them, but they are not a traditional lender. They've been a great partner as we go forward. So Ted, I think I'll stop there because I know we're running short of time. I will be here all day. I believe Tom is committed pretty much all day, and others. There are faculty in the room. There are current students in the room. There are quite a number of alums in the room. So please feel free to dialogue with them as well. But I came here to hear from all of you because I'm still working on real opportunities. As I said, this was the best thing I've done in a very, very long career. And the last thing I want to do is leave later this year without having a solution to this campus. So thank you very much.
So now comes the interactive part. We asked the greatest facilitator in rural community economic development in the country. I actually mean that. I do mean that. Paul Costello from the Vermont Council on Rural Development to come down. I believe the Vermont Council on Rural Development actually had a community visit in Pulteney a decade ago? How long ago?
More than that.
The community, and I'll let Paul tell you a little more about what that is, but the VCRD comes to a community and talks about, tries to enable the community to take on betterment projects that they themselves identify and implement. And Paul is used to having hard conversations and trying to get communities enabled to make great things happen. And I think that's really where we're at now. President Allen talked a lot about where they've been, talked a little about where this campus may go. Ultimately, this is a question of self-determination. The people of Pulteney and the people on this campus need to make those decisions. You need to ask us, the state, for help. And the first thing you need to do there is to rally around a great idea. And our hope is that this is the beginning of that process, to create a great idea. Not to solve any problems, but to create a great idea and to get, like I said, those 24 people that came down today to be pushing with you and to try to implement that idea. So we have a structured hour and 15 minutes now. I'm going to ask our visiting team to stay quiet because this is about the 100 or so people. I'm overwhelmed by the turnout today, so thank you. To participate. And I'd ask that people, I'll turn it over to Paul, and if Paul says anything wrong, I'll interrupt him and say, no, you should put different directions out there. But I'll turn it over to Paul to kind of set the frame of how we're going to do this next hour and 15. And please, there's a couple more seats up front, including the most important seat in the House, the one next to Paul Bruin from the Preservation Trust of Vermont. That's a seat you want if you need something. So please, there's a few more seats, 3 more, so please come forward. Paul Costello, folks.
I counted 200 people. People want to just take a second and look around. Look at your neighbors and recognize that you have tremendous power together here in this room. It's a tremendous honor to be here. I appreciate Ted's leadership and Paul's leadership in pulling this together. Appreciate the visiting team coming. But the most important thing in the room is not anybody from outside this town. It's the community. It's the people who are ready to stand up, who are going to stand up with their ideas, stand up with their energy, and are going to lead the way because no one does it for you. It's all about collective action. It's about lining up around priorities for action. And there may be some silver bullets out there, but none of them are going to work unless the community is with them. So my big thanks and congratulations is to all of you. When you line up together and you develop a collective vision, you have the power to make significant change. And democracy, despite its blemishes and challenges, is real, and it's right here in this room right now. So it's an honor to be here. It's not about me or speeches, it's about you. So here's the structure for what we're going to do. We're going to take 15 minutes where we're asking you to describe the challenge. Let's not blame and let's not make a debating society of this, but put your ideas in perspective on some of the challenges. And let's do this in a succinct way that's very clear. So no one gets up and gives a 15 or 20-minute speech about the challenge. You say a point and then we move on to someone else. We'd love to have as many people speak today as possible. Then we want to take 15 minutes and talk about the strengths of this community. What binds it together? What are its key assets going forward? Then a half hour where we brainstorm ideas. Respect the fact that Ted's got a crew here that are going to take deep notes on everything you say. We're going to look at those notes later. We're going to reflect them back, right, Ted, to the community. But we're also going to think about how some of those ideas may be priorities for action. So this isn't just a nice hand-holding session. It's a session to get ideas on the table that may become focus for action for the future of the community. And then we'll take a few minutes, if we have them at the end, for people from the visiting team to share their reflections back to the community. I'm going to ask people when they speak to stand up if you can, project, say your name. I'm going to ask everyone else to be listening to the person who holds the floor. If you're not recognized, please don't interrupt. Wait for me to recognize you. Identify yourself, be brief and clear, and you take no more than a minute or two to share your perspective. All right, so let's start talking a little bit about the challenge. And we've heard from Bob Allen, we all know the big picture of the challenge. But do people have a sense of what some of the implications of the closing of Green Mountain College have for this community at the start? And I'm just like a therapist. I'll just stand here and wait. So, wait, sir.
My name's Bob Williams, Williams Hardware, Pulteney, Vermont. Just turned 70. I started my store when I was 12. My parents graduated from Green Mountain College. My sister graduated from Green Mountain College. Talked to a lot of people. They all come to the hardware store and ask. So some of the questions are simple questions, such as, after June 30th, is someone taking over the college to maintain it? Such as the mowing of the lawns. Is there going to be security people in the evening walking every day around the college? And And I'm also just curious about just heating the buildings next winter. So those were some questions that what is the USD? I've got lots of other questions, but
Okay.
that's enough.
All right.
That's the brief part.
Yeah, and we probably aren't going to be in a position to answer a lot of questions about the future because there's a lot of big picture things that are unknown. Bob, is there going to
Just
be
quickly,
anything?
Paul, Bob, you know there's not an easy answer to that, because we don't know what it will be on June 30th or July 30th yet. This is, as I've described it, a beautiful campus, and if I were taking over this campus, I'd be mowing the grass and certainly heating the building. So we just don't know who that is yet, so I can't give you an answer beyond that.
So let's recognize that there aren't a lot of other answers, and that, in fact, this meeting is not a decision-making meeting. It's a meeting to get your ideas on the table and your input on the table, okay? Knowing that there'll be probably future meetings for more questions and potentially for more action. So let me ask other ideas around the challenge, other things that should be said. Tom.
The challenge, Tom Ospew, Provost here at Green Mountain College. When the college ceases operation, roughly $7 million in payroll ceases. So there's a significant economic hit in terms of direct salaries for individuals in the region.
Thank you. Yes, sir.
Jose Galvez, alumni of Green Mountain College and former resident of Poolney. One of the challenges that I see after June 30th or after May 15th would be what happens to the downtown businesses from the flow of Green Mountain College clientele that goes downtown. And if we don't figure out, if somebody comes take over the campus, we will have 1 year at least of transition of that economic downfall.
Thank you. The challenge of downtown businesses. Yes, ma'am.
Mary Jo Teeter, and to segue on what Jose said is, I think the downtown in Poultney is suffering even before the college has left town. Our bank is gone, our pharmacy is gone. I think the infrastructure of the properties is old, and to go back to what Ed said about highest value per acre being typically in a downtown committee, I'm a lister in town, and I don't see that right now. I actually see the values in the downtown as pretty low. There's a number, dozens of apartment rentals, which I don't think is included in the other numbers of 1,700 properties in town. So I think the challenge is bringing commerce to Poultney and being able to sustain it now, and then when the college leaves, it's going to be, we're even going to have more problems.
Right. So the challenge of exacerbating the current challenges with the downtown. Other perspectives. Sir in the back. And your
I'm
name.
Justin Miles from the Smoky House Center in Danby. I'm a former staff member here at Green Mountain College. And I just want to highlight the ripple effects, both a challenge and an opportunity. As you know, we recognize even in the hinterlands, Poultney is a hub town, both socially and programmatically, for decades. And so that continues to be the case, and I think reflects some of the challenges you're identifying, Mary Jo, which has already hit so many of the communities.
That's all in part of Rutland County and New York too. Yes, sir.
Bob Williams, business owner in town. I own a lot of that apartment buildings. I don't know what the impact is going to be yet. I know it's going to be an impact, but I don't know how drastic because the business fluctuates between summer and winter. The other thing I have, who makes the final decision if the college is going to be sold? Who makes the final decision on what that price would be to come to a deal with somebody that would want it?
The Board of Trustees would make the decision.
Yeah, thank you. Other perspectives on the challenge, sir?
Jeff King, I live here in Poultney too, but I'm also on the select board. Once this is taken over by another entity, we will need some people from the town to really be committed into working with this and helping our town get back on their feet. That, I think, is a big, big challenge. I think we do have a golden opportunity here, once this is converted over to another entity, to take it and run with it. Let's bring this up. We got a chance here.
Great. So take it and use it as a point of rally and people together and move the community forward. Yes, sir.
Jonas Rosenthal, retired town manager.
Speak up.
The huge economic challenge that I see is the water sewer rates increasing at least 30%. Green Mountain College provided roughly $70,000 of $450,000 budget. And a huge part of that budget is bond payments. I don't see anybody here from the Agency of Environmental Conservation, but the last bond vote in 2017, the village did not receive a 30% grant, minus 30% grant loan, and it was all loan. So that first bond payment is going to come up shortly, and so that's huge.
Yeah.
You know, so anyway, so I see the rates going up sky high.
Yeah, pressure on the municipality and on the ratepayers for water and sewer. Yes, sir.
Kyle.
Stand up, please,
Kyle Callahan. I'm an alumni of GMC. Live in town. My wife and I both work at the schools. My daughter's in the schools. One of the things that makes me nervous is GMC bringing in young people that, like myself, well, not so young anymore, but that stay in town and take jobs in town and contribute to the town economically, culturally, socially. Not having that constant influx every year of losing that vibrancy, I'm really concerned about.
Yeah, that rejuvenizing effect of having youth come into the community. Yes, sir.
Me?
No, in the back here.
Bucola. I live next door, actually across the street. I have one question. Who owns the college? Who owns this real estate?
Yeah, I mean, it's a simple, there's a company that was formed prior to the USDA loan. It's called Green Mountain Campus Holdings. It's an LLC that actually leases the campus. It's a little complicated, but it's called a leaseback, but the campus is leased back to the college.
Are any of their officers here?
Yep. I am one, and Tom Mospue is the other.
Yep.
I have one question. When you started borrowing almost $18 million in payroll, did you guys ever think of filing Chapter 11 and putting a wall up so that the government couldn't come after you and take you over or close your doors?
We never, yeah, go ahead, Tom.
Yeah, I don't want to get too much in the weeds, but about 50% of revenue, student revenue to the college is U.S. Department of Education Title IV revenue. Once you declare bankruptcy, you are no longer eligible for any U.S. Department of Education Title IV revenue. So to declare bankruptcy is to go out of business. It's not a protection reorganization mechanism for higher education.
Yeah. Let's respect that there's tensions around this. We're trying to get any other challenges on the table, and then we're going to turn to assets in Poultney and potentially of this campus. Sir.
I'm Arnie DeMattis. I'm on the Planning Commission in Poultney. I moved there in 1970. There was 3 houses for sale. I tried to buy property, buy a house, just about impossible. Today, I'm concerned about the amount of property and the taxes and how I believe our tax base is going to go down. And that means the state ain't going to get the taxes. Our infrastructure here in the town, our school system, our roads, that we just voted on a budget, are we going to be able to support that in the future? You know, there's many, many houses for sale here, and I watch the prices, and the prices are going down. You can buy a house for $100,000, a good house here.
So
I'm concerned about what's going to happen to our tax base so that we can support the town and the village.
Thank you so much. Yes, ma'am.
Lisa Nelson. I live in town and I work here at the college. Sort of piggybacking on that is the fact that a lot of the faculty and staff live in town and they're going to be leaving. And a lot of people who are landowners rent their places, and now renting's not going to be as a viable income because there's no going to be the students who are renting the places or faculty and staff renting the places. So we're just going to have more people leaving.
Yeah.
And at the moment, we don't have a draw to bring people in.
Yeah. Okay, thank you so much. Yes, ma'am, in fact.
don't know, I'm Carolyn Del Pezzo. I live on College Street. My property goes back to the river. It borders the college back there. I've lived here for 15 years. I had the house for 20. What my concern is, what you've all been saying, maybe we need to get back to that old, leave your car at home, go in town and get everything. Let's start with the smallest way to fix. Let's not move. Let's stay here. Let's build up the little local stores. Let's save on gas. Let's take on what the college already started. I've seen phenomenal things go on over there. I welcomed myself to the garden all summer long. I picked everything. I walked home with bouquets of vegetables just because it was there. It's a great opportunity. I must have saved $15, $20 not spending it. What I'm saying is the community's there for you. Take it, it's here.
Yeah, community relocalization. Thanks for that vision. Other challenges, and then we're going to turn a corner and talk about assets of the community before we get into things that can be done. Sir.
My name is C.B. Hall. I live in town. I'm just curious to know about the group that was formed, had online presence, Save Green Mountain College, I think it's called. If there's anybody here who could speak to how far their efforts have gotten, what prospects for success they might have.
Okay, thanks. Is there anyone here from Save Green Mountain College?
Hi, I'm Kay Ganguly. I'm the daughter of 2 Green Mountain College alums. I'm on the strategic leadership team for Save GMC. We are in the process of working with the college to see if there is something we can do. We have a partner who has come on board with us, and we have, and again, I'm bound by NDA, so I'm trying to be careful about what I can say.
Yeah.
But we are still moving forward. We are creating a strategic plan and hope to present something to the Board of Trustees in the next few weeks.
Great, thank you so much, sir.
Larry Newton. A couple things. And the challenge to me, I've heard a lot of talk here today, but it's not about this campus. This campus needs to be a college. And I hope in this audience, there are representatives from the University of Vermont so that we can have a University of Vermont campus at Polton. Or that there are people in this audience from Middlebury College who could take this place over easily and make it sustainable. Okay. The other thing is, those 2 points there. The other point is, we've heard talk from the Rutland Regional Committee here today about the downtowns and everything else. I don't see downtowns in Vermont moving at all. After all the years we've put money into downtowns, you go to Brandon and there's a whole row of empty spots. You go to Rutland, the Main Street, there's a whole row of empty places. Colney has some.
Yep.
We need you people here in this room today from the state of Vermont to start paying attention to other parts of the state.
Okay, thank you very much.
Frank Sears from Welch Presbyterian Church. Challenge, the campus, although we're looking at students and salaries, also is the home for documents, books, and artifacts, to include a number of those from the Welch culture from many, many years ago. How would those documents and artifacts be handled so that they could stay safe and so that they could stay within a worldwide access graph also, as they are here on this campus? From outside, people can access to see what they need, find it's here, and access online.
Thank you.
Quick response? We don't know. I apologize, but there is no immediate answer to the question. We have a number of collections on this campus that we want preserved. Not knowing what the use of the campus is going to be going forward, I share this gentleman's, I think this should be a college campus, but unless we know what that is, some of those may continue to reside here, or they may be.
So let's hold that question as an ongoing challenge, and let's also recognize that we've used our 15 minutes on challenging. Everything's going to be bleeding in together, so if you have something positive you want to say about the assets of Polteny, think about that too, but sir, you were waiting.
As most of you guys know, the mission of the college was for a sustainable mission. And community is one of the most serious drivers in any mission. And just a big mental lapse that I've been dealing with is how, as a college, that's what we talk about in all of our classes, at lunch, at dinner, before you go to bed. And now we've come to this point of breakdown, and it's not even an option in people's heads to stay. Our mission has come here, and it's failed, and now we all just get to pick up and leave. The community, that was the purest mission that we all held on to. And now that we have all of these resources around us, I just hope some of us through the college are thinking, man, this was our home. We committed here, all of us, teachers, students, your kids, whatever. And now we're just gonna pick up and leave because we wanna follow our profession or whatever you're leaving for. We can make money here. We have all these resources here. Young people need to come here. We all have to pull our minds together.
Yes.
It's just not pick up and run when the first giant problem comes around. If that's how we are gonna live our lives, then we'll all get crushed. By yourself.
Thank you. What's your name? Other perspectives on the challenge or potentially opportunities, sir?
I'm Danny Lang, Green Mountain College alum. I spent most of my summers here while I was in school, and I still call Poultney home, even though I live in a tiny house in Wells. And I, well, Wyatt had to say, that's true, and I think, there's a huge group, and Kyle too, piggybacking off what he said, there's a huge group of alumni and people who are associated with the school that came here for Green Mountain College and decided to stay for Poultney. And there's got to be something to keep us here. We can't shoot ourselves in the foot to make ourselves unsuccessful in life, but we want to be here and help the community out in whatever way we can. So.
Yeah, there may be opportunities to engage in the next big thing, sir.
You should mention his, we're talking about assets, right? He's got a great asset he didn't mention.
Yeah, I'm trying to start a community shop, makerspace, youth education center. It's kind of far-reaching right now, but something in town that can attract people from all different demographics and all different places to come to Poultney and want to stay here and use the housing that's available here in Poultney and just give a reason to put Poultney on the map other than just Green Mountain College.
That is a nice shift to the asset side. Thank you very much. And where is that? Can you just tell?
It's right at the end of Main Street. It's technically 55 Beeman Street. It's part of the BMAS facility. And we just moved there in the past couple of years, and it's a really great building to start something like this. And I've been talking with the landlord and have ideas about all of that. So if anyone wants to talk to me afterwards, I'll be hanging around.
Thanks for your leadership. Yes, sir.
So my name is Tim Johnson. I'm the president of Slate Valley Trails. 3 years ago, a group of people came together and started building a network of mountain bike and hiking trails. So I think one of the assets of our community is our recreational assets. We have Lake St. Catherine State Park, as well as this growing trail system. So we've gotten 30 miles of single track trail built with a commitment, financial commitment, 5 years out. Literally hundreds of thousands of dollars have gone into this trail system, and there's a vision for the system to be 50 to 60 miles big. When that happens, that's unique to this state, and that can couple in with other recreational assets we have here. Part of the mission of Slate Valley Trails, and there's three things, but one of them is to enhance the economics of this community and this town. So it's written in the bylaws, it's written into the mission of the group. It's more than just building trails. So I just want the community to be aware that that is part of the mission of Slate Valley Trails, and that's the scale that this group is working. It's growing, and it's been funded and will be funded for the future.
Great. So I'm going to ask people to be brief with their assets, okay? Other assets. Yes, ma'am.
Kimberly Carter. I'm former president of the board for the co-op. In my dealings with the town, I've noticed that there are several silos of people that are committed to promoting Poultney, but they don't overlap very well, like PRC, 2020, the Chamber of Commerce, sorry, I can't come up with the word. I would love to see all of those groups come together and try to work as a unit, because I just like the trail system is a huge asset that this region should be promoting. And the only way it's going to be promoted successfully is for all these groups to work together to one goal.
Thank you so much. briefly.
I just want to comment, you mentioned, Tim mentioned the outdoor recreation resources. Ted Brady commented on the outdoor recreation resources. The town of Bolton put together a fantastic grant application to the Vermont Outdoor Recreation Economic Community Initiative. The grants were due December 14th. The town of Bolton applied. We had a great team, great application. Decisions were made last Tuesday. Haven't heard a thing.
Okay. There's an opportunity, Nikki. Yes, ma'am.
I just wanted to piggyback on what you said. I'm Humberto Ritchie. I'm representing the Tony Chamber. Judy Leach is the president. I met with her last week. We did discuss about having a meeting and inviting like one representative from each community here in town to discuss what we're going to do going forward with Quiltney. Even with Green Mountain College aside, I think the most important thing for us to realize is that whether we are up in business or whether we are down in business, whether people agree with what's going on or whether they disagree, it is emotion that we all deal with. However, good emotion or bad emotion, it does show that everybody is very passionate about the town of Quiltney and what we're doing and going forward. It is up to us as representatives of each community to get together and decide what we can do, even with Green Mountain aside, to build up the community where we work.
Okay, great, thank you. So I'm going to ask, in just 5 minutes or so, we're going to start laying out ideas. We're going to ask you to share your ideas. And if there's a last challenge or a last asset that you'd like to say, sir.
I just want to point
And
out.
I'm going to ask you to be very brief.
I'm sorry, my name is Matt Osborne. I just want to point out the asset of the farm. You mentioned the farm. I'm very concerned about what's going to happen to it. And I just wanted to point that out.
Great, thank you. Other assets or challenges you want to have on the table, sir?
My name is Nick Weiss. I taught at Green Mountain College for 21 years. I'm a member of the art community. There's a large group of artists in the community. We have studios here. I have my studio down the street. And we started Stone Valley Arts, which all helped us get into a building. And I think that's a great asset to the community.
Thank you so much. Sir?
I think the main asset is the fact that there's so many people in Polton and we have ideas. And in speaking to the college particularly, I would hope that it and all the other inner players be willing to draw on what we know to make us part of the circle and hope we can be part of the solution also. What can we do to help?
Thanks. The asset of the people, being part of the circle for the change. Yes, sir?
My name's Scott McLaughlin. I'm a retired veterinarian here in town. Worked here for 31 years. This is a wonderful community, extremely strong, with very strong values for family and community. One of the things that I would like to see for the future is advancement of STEM education in the high school, in the college, and higher education, should you have another institution. It is part of the future. Science rules. Okay, it's part of our society, and it's a growing opportunity for us here as a community.
Okay, great. So, last assets and challenges, and then we'll take your ideas. Yes, ma'am.
Hello, my name is Carrie Oframani. I'm the Vice President of the Slate Quarry Park Group, and I'm excited to say that we are successfully going to break ground on the last green on downtown. The focus is going to be Slate. I've been working with Slate as an artist for 15, 20 years, and we're just, I'm excited to bring beauty to our downtown and to the residents.
Awesome, thank you so much. Back there was someone waiting.
My name is Joey Bonas. I'm the principal of Polteny High School. I'm also a lifelong resident of the town, and I'm just going to echo the comments about the community because, I tell our kids every week that they're lucky to live in a town like this because the community supports the youth, not only at the high school but at the college. It's going to affect us. We have some students whose parents work here. We have staff members who have spouses that work here as well. But I think the community is a great community. They've always rallied around, and I'm going to echo what Jeff said about looking forward to. There's something good's going to come out of this. So.
Thank you, and thank you for your work down there. Other assets, sir.
A challenge that no one's really touched on. Bob Williams touched on it briefly, but was God forbid all of these deals fall through. What happens if no one takes over the campus and the campus is closed and you have this entire campus with its buildings just sitting here empty? What will that do to the town in terms of attracting vagrants, people living here, in terms of an asset for the community? Once the campus is closed, it's exponentially harder to reopen. it's great that there are a lot of groups trying to save the campus and bring something else here, but God forbid, what is the plan B that if these things don't happen, what happens to the campus and the town as a result of this sitting completely empty?
Yeah, that's a devastating challenge. Yep, ma'am.
Hi, my name is Whitney Van Buren. I just want to echo on that challenge quickly before we transition. I've been looking for a commercial space to rent in town for the better part of the year, and as somebody who's young and wants to contribute something to this community, it's very challenging to see the back and forth of what direction this is going to go into, especially with the infrastructure of the buildings, and feeling that maintenance of a lot of these downtown buildings on Main Street haven't been upkept, and the amount of investment that's going to have to go into it to contribute something to want to better this community, but also we're dealing with that factor of this could go either way.
Yeah, thank you. Great that you're here. Other folks that have a last word before we turn to ideas towards action. Yes, ma'am, and then you.
Just one asset to the town of Poultney that hasn't been mentioned and sometimes I've been taken for granted is the lake and the lake community.
The lake and the lake community. Yes.
I'm Smith. It's the volunteer base in the community that's so strong, both from the longtime residents and people who've lived here forever, and that's an asset. But the thing I'm concerned about is the volunteers who came from the college, who had to do service learning components, who helped with the food shelf and helped with the historical society and helped with all of the other, and the churches and the volunteers that, so it's not like we don't have volunteers, but these were young people who came in and maybe could lift heavy boxes that older folks couldn't lift. And so I'm concerned about that.
Yeah, the loss of that youth energy, but also sustaining that human capacity of the community. Last thoughts, you two, and then we're going to go to ideas forward. Sir.
My name is Robert Desprez. I've been in the area for 60 years. I own property across the Great Divide in Hampton, New York. Now, are we commiserating with Washington County, New York, or has anybody reached out to Washington County about their common situation that we share?
Has anyone reached out to New York? Not in a systematic way yet, sir, probably. Yes, ma'am.
Hi, my name is Maritza, and I'm here from the West Coast at GMC. I'm a local, non-traditional GMC student, and one of the resources I see, not only amongst yourself in terms of the people resources, but the experiences that you have, and your environment. You have tons of water that comes that you can collect. You also have the ability to grow food fairly easily out here. That doesn't depend on a huge economic base.
Great. You've been waiting, sir, for one last word before we turn the corner. 1 minute.
My name's Bill Schomloff. I own York Street Auto. I've been here for 30 years.
Speak up, Bill.
Can you speak up, please?
Speak up. He hears you.
Okay. I was drawn here the same reason you are. It's a beautiful town. We need to listen to them, so whatever we draw in is good. On your demographics, is the student body that'll be leaving included in the number of people in this town? Because that'll significantly change that. And number two, by approximately 10%. And number two, according to the town plan, as I remember reading it, you got the median household income way higher than it actually is.
Okay.
You may want to double check that.
Thanks
Or maybe I'm wrong.
Thanks for those observations. Okay, so here's the time where you get to say, you think, from what Bob said, that there are 3 different groups that are looking at this potential, the potential for a new vision, potential for a new set of partners that may lead this forward, a new financial model. No one really knows what those are, but the question that we have for you is, what are your ideas? What do you think those people should be paying attention to? What would be your advice to them about what would fit here the best? Or about action by the community separate from this particular facility? So it's a wide open floor. We're taking notes on everything said. We're going to digest those notes and report them back to you. There may be some choices for action, and there's certainly going to be input to those 3 developers, potential developers.
Hey, Paul,
So,
can I,
yeah.
one opening comment?
So as I said, I've been looking at this for more than 2 years, and I won't say concluded, but the likelihood of finding a single purpose, for this campus is slim. So I think as you think about this, I would think about multiple uses for this campus. And it actually is, for those of you who went on the tour, I tried to point it out, it's very well suited to multiple uses.
Right.
So I wouldn't be restricted to one entity coming in and taking over the Green Mountain College again.
So there's no wrong answers today, but long answers are bad. Let's hear your brief, succinct idea that can get on the table for people to think about. Sir.
So one
Stand
of,
up, please.
all right, again, Kyle. I work at Lee High School on Main Street, which some of you might know is a therapeutic college, school. And so we work with kids primarily with behavioral and emotional disorders, which means we have a lot of connections into the human services and healthcare services and mental health services in Vermont. And there are not a lot of beds in especially when it comes to youth mental health needs. We've got a lot of beds in this location. So and we also looked at the employment of the town, which a lot of it is in education, in social services, and in healthcare. So I would kind of like to see, for both the benefit of the state and the community, maybe using some of that for a mental health retreat for youth.
Okay, opportunity for a youth retreat. Sir.
Bill Shawmoff again. Has anybody thought about using this for veterans? Because in veterans, they need housing, they need rehab, we have an infirmary, we have a food service, we have learning capabilities, we can teach them into new jobs. They would have visitors come that would come and take them out and spend money within our community. And we have a lot of room. On top of that, you could add that with his idea and have a joint use of the whole thing. Veterans would need round-the-clock care. That's a lot of jobs.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thanks, Bill.
Especially a veteran center. Yes, sir.
Yes, Jeff King again. There's a lot of opportunity here. Just throwing a few out. Maybe not just one educational system, maybe a combination of other educational systems. Other educational systems are fighting their backlog of financials.
Yeah.
But maybe 3 or 4 can come in and share it. That's one option. VA hospital, another option. Another option, senior housing. There's a lot here. Another option is we have a farm, 22 acres. And there used to be a track there. We could have horses come in and train for the barrel jumping. They have a lot of that goes all summer down the other side of Manchester. There's all kinds of things if it doesn't stay an educational facility. The firefighters, the police academy, the Vermont Police Academy. I hope you can write this down fast enough, Ted.
He's a captain and all.
Good job, Ted.
The Vermont Police Academy, the Vermont Firefighters Association, the
You only get one
USDA. One more, and the USDA on any type of agricultural here.
All right. They may be a partner for a long term here. Sir.
Yeah, Paul, I just want Frank Koster, ask a quick question to put this into perspective, the scale. What's the residential capacity here that we're dealing with, Bob?
Quick word.
650.
650, okay. Next question, or next observation. Yes, ma'am.
Patty Williams. I have a business in town, Hermit Hill Books. But I was thinking a trade college would be really good because we really need to get some of the younger people into the trades.
Great, a trade college. Others? Sir.
Yes, sir. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. I'm just gonna piggyback on what Bob Allen had mentioned about the multiple use campus and then trying to tie this all together. I'm not quite sure if one entity, if they can fall under one whole entity, but doing the campus into a multi-purpose campus could work. So having an established conference center where entities from all over Vermont and the United States and the world can rent the facilities that we have available here. A small language academy which can be enhanced and advanced by also opening courses to Vermonters and people who are within the state. An Institute of Sustainability, because it upholds the mission that we have already been taking as Green Mountain College, #1 in sustainability, represents Vermont. A farming program, we have one of the best farms models, probably in the United States, if I'm not wrong. A meditation center, spirituality, which gives access to youth programs for connecting themselves. A small STEM college or trade college, as Patty was suggesting. and then open access for the town, the community, to the resources that we have in the schools, such as the fields, the playing fields, the courts, the library, and even the library can be transferred in a partnership with the public library, that they can own that building and manage it, as well as the pool resources. And I was thinking for people like me who are PhD candidates and would like to write our dissertation, a place where we can sit, have fellowships, come write, and also teach.
There's a lot more ideas out here. Sir?
Yes, Jim Hogan, St. David's Anglican Church. I want to tie into what the president said before about the multiple uses. First, I want to echo what Frank Sears said from the Welsh Presbyterian Church. We have a tremendous Welsh community here. There's a lot of Williams, Jones, Hughes, Davies, Roberts, etc. right in this room, and a lot of Welsh emotion, which is very strong and good. Somehow finding a place, speaking of multiple uses, to house this collection that's here, to keep it right in Pulteney, where a lot of the people who donated were from Pulteney. Second use is, I know in certain circles that I'm, of course, conversant with in my business, that there are some small seminaries or people who would like to start a small seminary and start small, like perhaps use 1 or 2 buildings. There are people I know who have been talking about that. So just one other school and educational related things to look into.
Yeah. So the idea of locating multiple learning opportunities on one campus. Sir, in the back.
I'm Tom Clothing from Pulteney, been here lifetime member of the society, and also a select board member. I just heard fairly recent that Brattleboro Retreat is looking to expand their situation down there. There are numerous people looking and waiting in lines for beds and such for alcohol and substance abuse. You know, this is maybe in one of the directions we ought to head in, because with the opiate crisis and heroin crisis here in Vermont, I'm sure there's a certain need for that.
Provide answers to that challenge. Yes. Yes, ma'am.
Dawn Farley, I'm a teacher at the high school, also an alum and a resident of the town with a daughter in the school. To add to what Patty was suggesting about the trade school, I'd love to see something with environmental engineering emphasis.
Environmental?
And mixed with STEM.
Okay, great. Environmental engineering. Sir?
Richard Picola, I'm a resident here. I think one of the things we have to look at is the fact that we've started to think about scale. You know, this is a great place. This would be a great place. Pulteney would be a great town to become an incubator, I think, for the state of Vermont. The problems we're having here, they're having everywhere, not only in the state of Vermont, but everywhere. And the truth of the matter is, these small colleges really shouldn't be going out. It's a danger when you start getting rid of your educational institutions. That's not something that you see go under usually if you can help it. I've been involved with a couple of them in Pennsylvania where there had to been, they had to do teach outs. My field is medicine. What I'm trying to say here is that this is a big world. We don't just live in Pulteney anymore. And Vermont just isn't the center of our universe. Today, everything has to be looked at with scale. And this gentleman here made a very good point. I think what we could do with a place like Green Mountain, just imagine in your mind if you took Green Mountain, sistered it with MIT, Cornell University, 2 or 3 other schools that are high-end, that have specific sciences, and you partnered them together in a regional type situation where we're out of the state and we're in the state. And we circulate the students through the system. I think that's what's happening in the world. It's what's happening in China. It's what's happening in Japan. It's what's happening in a lot of the emerging countries. People are starting to think in terms of scale.
Okay, thank you very much, sir. Yes, ma'am.
Pamela Burlingame, I'm a landowner in town. I have a young family. My husband is an alum as well. He works as a carpenter here. And no matter what entity or entities come here, I think we definitely still need to be doing what we're doing right here and looking at what the town can do to provide a place for people who would come here to use this campus to want to be actually in town. So building off of the Fulton 2020 would be one, I think, important thing. I was involved in some of the early-ish days of that, and there have been great things that people have spoken to that have come from that. Slate Valley Trails came out of that, Stone Valley Arts, the park. I think maybe it's time for kind of a new generation of Fulton 2020, not just people, but the next part of that. I do want to also speak to just the danger that can come with the volunteer, just relying on volunteers and volunteer capacity. I've served on the board of the co-op and other groups, and people can get burnt out and it can be hard to sustain these kinds of things. So I wonder if we should consider a paid position in the town to, for example, I've learned about Bristol Core, which is kind of like Fulton Downtown Revitalization Committee, I believe, and they went ahead and got an executive director. So just trying to get more capacity to for people working to think about all this stuff on the town's behalf.
Lead community and economic development. Sir.
I'm Dennis Moynihan with the Vermont Innovation Commons, and I just wanted to echo what this gentleman said, is that I've worked all over America, all through the Midwest. I'm a Michigander originally, and I think this is a conversation that's being echoed in far too many communities all across our great country. And what we're working on at the Commons, wherever we work, here or somewhere else, we're trying to see how Vermont can be an incubator for rural challenges everywhere. And that means that we're looking for ideas that serve the local community. It's got to be us. It's got to be about us, not about other people. But finding great ideas that are replicable. And that's not just so we can show off, but being the first out of the gate with ideas that are revolutionary is one way to attract people from around the world to invest in us and make something happen. So whatever happens, that's our dream of trying to help here and everywhere.
I noticed you say here because you're working with a group of people who are thinking.
We are. It's very speculative, but we're trying to figure out how we can come up with some ideas that serve us in this room and are a model for other places.
Right. Thank you. Sir.
Thanks. Just a couple comments I wanted to say, and as people are throwing out ideas, I'm looking around the crowd and I'm seeing grimaces maybe, or frowns. I think it's important, whatever someone throws out there, to keep an open mind. Don't, listen to the dialogue, engage in the dialogue, because there might be an idea that you think, oh no, that'll never work there. But when you get into it, when you get into the weeds, as you said, Tom, I mean, it could be a real possibility for this. The other thing I wanted to say was, someone, I'm the town manager and everyone comes to me and I'm the town councilor, or whatever you want to call me, right? But so I've got, hundreds of ideas that people have said to me, but one of my village trustees said to me this morning, and I thought it was a great idea, and I hope you don't mind, Jerry, me sharing it, was, this college, its focus, and they're a leader in sustainability. And that's what the state of Vermont is focusing on, right? And that's what actually they're engaging at the national level in a debate on this. So, I mean, this college has been doing that on a smaller scale for, decades. So I could see an opportunity just to say, look, this is a college that's been doing this. Can we do it now? It's on the national debate. I mean, can we do it here? Can we start something here that
Can you take that
resonates?
sustainability idea to scale and make it a national model and incubator for the future? Okay, ideas on the table. I'm going to go to you in the back, sir.
Echoing what you said, even if the college were to go away, the mission doesn't have to go away. The resources and the knowledge that have been gathered here on this campus don't have to go away. If ExxonMobil were to purchase this campus, we could still stress sustainability. It's like, we have all these great teachers, and before this institution actually officially dissolves, I think it would be really great to actually compile a resource library from teachers' lessons plans and books and whatnot that will help propel us to continue this mission, because sustainability is not a fad, it's a way of life.
Hey, thank you so much. Perspectives on the future and what could be done, especially people who have not spoken yet. Sir?
If I could, please. If we have to step out of the arena, the educational arena, might we consider this property being retrofitted into a business park? It's happened in other areas with schools, with Air Force bases. As they close down, they turn them into business parks. It takes a strong property manager, but it can be done.
Okay, thank you. Another idea on the table. Others? Yes? Mayor?
Martha Poppin from the Lake St. Catherine Association. So in recognition of the governor's clean water funding requirements for investment of, I don't know, $2.3 billion over the next 20 years, allocated to regional watershed basin organizations, just the idea of having a center for excellence for research, education, and outreach in collaboration with the lake.
Thank you. Other ideas that should hit the table? Sir?
More of just a comment that sometimes the right hand doesn't know what the left hand is doing, and we're kind of a recreational area, outdoor recreational area. We got a state park down here. We got leaf keepers coming to the state park closes September 1st. Doesn't make sense.
Sir?
This is not my idea, but someone did express it to me of, you know, with the CBD boom right now and hemp and everything, of using certain acreage to plant that. And the other thing that I had to say personally is just whatever does happen, the whole town has to be behind it, kind of going off of what Paul's saying, that, you know, even if you have a grimace look about an idea, if it's a successful idea that's going to get started, you know, you got to be behind something to happen, regardless of what it may be.
Well, if you don't gather your ideas together before you make decisions, you're in trouble.
Right,
So
no, you
that's
got to make the right
opportunity
decision,
today.
but, yeah.
All ideas are good. Sir in the back.
So Tim Johnson from Johnson's on LifeWorks. I'd say, while we're trying to think of a solution, one part of the conversation is what will happen to this institution, and so that's good. Meanwhile, the community, businesses, people living here, focusing on what is a sustainable move forward. And again, as a transplant to this area, what's so attractive about this area is the friendly community for raising children, the beautiful outdoors, this here, and that doesn't go away. So there's what can, you know, internet can take away retail, headwinds for small, low-bar schools makes them hard to exist. But what's going to remain, and it's this area. So I do think that recreation in this area is a thing that we have that we don't always see because we have it. When people come and experience it, they rent bikes and they're blown away by just going down the street, going down to a field.
Great, thank you, sir.
I was an English philosophy major, so the math isn't going to work out here, but I'm imagining and envisioning the idea of, there's all this talk going on about free tuition in colleges and things like that. You know, what if the town bought the campus, right? I know. Again, I don't know the math. But what if this became the educational hub of the town? So if you're a town member, you can come and use a classroom or offer a workshop in learning to be a plumber, right? You don't need to go to a whole trade school for that. You can go and take just small courses to develop the apprenticeships of that. Just making it become an educational hub that is owned by the community, that we are in charge of what we do with this space. We don't wait for that third-party entity to come in, whether it's ExxonMobil or anybody else, and tell us what this is going to become. We take it.
Okay, thank you.
Occupy.
Yeah, Linda Nolden, an alum, former trustee of Green Mountain, and it's wonderful to have all this community here. This is what we're all about. Somebody, I can't remember who, talked about equestrian. Years and years ago, it was a great place. We could sort of think about those things, but in retrospective, everybody here, we need a place. People in Foley need a place, a large gathering place. Like we're in this room today, this is great. 200 people or something. I don't believe that we have such a space available, so we might want to think about, could we utilize a building here for the town?
Okay, thank you. Other perspectives on things that could be done, that are potential directions forward, especially people who haven't spoken yet.
I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
Sure. My name is Chris Baskey, I'm a resident. So some thoughts that I have is Department of Corrections. We currently send about 200 inmates out of state. That's extremely costly. You can partner that with mental health facility, treatment facility. Another thought is kind of going off the Lehigh situation. So you look at, we have an extremely low unemployment rate here, which means we still have employers dying for help. Some of that workforce out there may be students with some disabilities, looking at maybe like a landmark type model where maybe this could be an learning facility for people with disabilities.
Okay, thank you. Other ideas that should be on the table? And I'm going to ask you, I don't think you've spoken, sir.
Armin Chiccarella, resident of Wells. Not to push a hot button here, but given the natural assets here of the people and the community, and the lack of somewhat diversity and the aging population of Vermont, I would just put on the table, consider a center for refugees and immigrants to assimilate them into this country, provide some education and support.
Thank you.
It's not quite the same question. I came a little late. If someone came in tomorrow and offered to buy it, would we have any choice? Would they just come out and buy it outright if they had the money
Well, it would be the Board of Trustees that would make
to make?
that
But
decision
would we,
legally.
so we would have none?
I think you have influence, but but there is a legal structure, yes.
Okay.
Certainly. Okay, other thoughts and ideas? Sir, you've been waiting.
Yeah, we've been talking a lot
Speak
of
loudly.
we've been talking a lot what could happen to the campus here, but I think we should think a lot about the services and the estate of the town for visiting investors. You know, I think if I'm visiting a place, what do I want to see? I want to see vines and greenery, biophilia down the street. I want to see plants. I want to see people, interacting with the plants. And that's, a lot of people are like that. They want to see that vibrancy. That's life. In the summertime, we got a little here, but I think picking up on that could help delight this place to the eye. Secondly, we're without a co-op. And that might not seem like a big deal, but you're not going to get any young people moving here, eating chemical food from Shaw's, or having Price Choppers in Granville a little cheaper. Co-op you can't afford in Rutland. That's something we need to come together on. If we're going to have any chance, clean food, taking care of ourselves, that's going to be the #1 attractant. In a country where everyone eats like shit, come to a place, Pulteney, Vermont, where you don't have to, where you have community around. That's the #1 attractant. We live in a hellhole of a society now, but this place could offer a nice place to go.
Thanks. Other ideas, last ideas that folks have? Sir.
Yeah, I'm sorry to take much space, but I want to build on Wyatt's point, is that something that we have a little bit forgotten here is that Vermont is so special, when we think about where the future of the world is going, is most people are going to travel to cities, and people are going to be living in cities. About 2050, 70% of the world's population will be around cities. But what is the value of rural spaces, and how rural spaces can inform cities to live a more sustainable future? And I think that we have it pretty good in here and very solid, that farming, clean air, clean water, and and access to land that we can help the cities sustain themselves. So those are things that we have to also consider as one of our assets and moving forward with our ideas. What is our role as urban space in the future of the city?
Yeah, use that asset. Don't try to be something you're not. Other last ideas on the table, sir?
Tom Hughes. We've been presented with people from out of town showing us demographics, charts, telling us basically what we kind of already know about our own town. And I'm not sure that Montpelier gets it. Patty gets it, but I'm not sure that Montpelier gets it. Where the heck is the governor? that we are a town in crisis here. We're not a town that would, like a happy dream of, you know, better economic planning. We're a town with a big, big need. And I think that the solution ought to involve some tangible help from our state government. Thank you.
Robin Chestnut Tangerman, Middletown Springs. And one of the things that Vermont has in abundance and will have even more of in the near future is older Vermonters. So we looked at multiple uses for the campus. I think a template for how to invite older people to be a vibrant part of the community is an option we consider.
Thank you. Sure.
Is it possible to market this property with a significant tax savings to anybody that might be interested in it? Or pull that out?
Sure.
I just want to say that I am all for going 100% that this be a continual school for young people. That this place has been here for 185 years. And to see it to go the other way would be really sad for me.
Great, thank you. Yes, ma'am.
I just have one small thing to say when I have a big problem to solve. Arithmetic does not lie in any language. So I don't have the money to solve this problem, so I use what I do have. I think of the onion. It starts with me, then I should go next to my neighbors, then out to the village, then out to the county, out to Montpelier, out. Keep going out until we're United States connected as something that's happened. Like someone had said, it's happening all over the world. Let's just get on it, let's do it, let's be Americans. Then we can be global, then we can show, we can solve problems. You know, and if you don't have the money, do what you got. Because the man, I know you have to tell the news. That is what we have to deal with. So just do what's free.
Thank you so much. Other last perspectives, we have time for just a couple more. Yes, ma'am.
Jan Williams, Poley. I work at the college in the dining room. And it is a beautiful dining room. I'd hate to see it go to waste. Why not bring the senior center to the college?
Okay, thank you. Other last ideas, sir.
Bob Williams again. Just back in the 1930s, I think it was, this used to be TCA, Troy Conference Academy, which had the high school until the high school was built, and then the kids went up there. With the consolidation of high schools in the state, combining something like that along with a STEM with it could be a real benefit for everybody.
Yeah. Thank you.
I just want to say thank you, everybody that came down and listening to us. This town is, and we do have a big problem.
Yeah.
We really appreciate you guys coming down, everyone that came down, every organization. And we do need help, like everybody's saying, but we will figure it out.
Yeah.
Thank you.
We've got about 15 minutes where we're going to be reflecting people who have come as visitors and have been listening and thinking about this. First thing I'd say is, someone was saying we all have to be in it, we're all part of it. Well, that starts with you all, but we're here because we're in it. None of us have the individual power to answer this situation. But collectively, there's opportunities for partnership, there's opportunities for leverage, and anything that succeeds here is going to need the community, the county, the state, the federal government, USDA, and other partners all rallying together. The more clear and focused this process gets over the next while, this conversation in the community gets, the more power there will be collectively to influence and better the solution that may come to it. So thank you all for your individual contributions, and I'd like to go around and ask people. There's one guy who's been waiting. I'm going to give him a second to share a reflection. And then we're going to go right to our team members.
My name is Doug Garrity, and I'm not from Fulton. I grew up in Fairhaven. And several of the things, veterans, you with your mental people, your senior citizens, corrections, they all need one thing, and there's a shortage of it. Nurses. Okay, and is there anybody from our federal government representing us here?
Congressional offices, USDA.
Yes, there is. We're missing a great opportunity. We've got leverage. Our leverage is Patrick Leahy, who's senior man in Washington, Bernie Sanders, who's running for president, and you got Trump. I didn't want to turn this into political, but Trump wants his wall built, $5 billion. Bargain with him. Get $5 billion to try Bernie Sanders free education for nurses. And I might get emotional here, so bear with me. They're important. Give them the money, $5 billion split between the states for paying for nurses. Try Bernie Sanders free education on a low scale, something we need. That'll help curb the cost of medical. It'll give you your nurses for my generation, which is going to need them real soon. And it'll survive. It'll help bring this college together.
Okay. Keep it. Thanks, you got the idea.
No, I'm dead serious.
Yeah, I hear you.
You know, because Castleton can't take all these people. They need the campus space. Castleton can't build anymore.
Yeah.
You got it here.
So we've
Push
got,
these representatives.
yeah,
Bargain with Trump.
okay.
Get that money.
The idea's
And
on
something
the,
can happen tomorrow.
yeah, thank you. Okay, so we want to take, we've got about 10 minutes left. We're going to go a quick run around, and I'm not going to call on everyone on the visiting team. I'm going to ask you, if you're on the visiting team and you have an observation, a reflection, a key theme you've heard that you'd like to share, please take a turn. Ben Doyle from USDA.
Hi, everyone. I'm Ben Doyle. I'm the Associate Director for USDA Rural Development, and I think probably, as many of you know, we're the lender to Green Mountain College. And I want to say that it's, honestly, it's a privilege to be here today. I go to a lot of meetings. Few are as important as this one. So we're really glad to be here. And I want to provide some context as to why we're here and why we're involved in this project in the first place. I'll be really brief. Our mission as an agency is to improve the quality of life and economic vitality of rural communities. And we do that by making investments in those communities, mostly in the areas of housing, essential community infrastructure, and business development. The reason we're here today, and the reason we made that loan in the first place, is because we believe in Polton. We're here for you. We're going to work with you on this. We're going to work with the college. They have been a great partner. And I just want you to understand, I mean, your very first question, who's going to mow the lawn? I get that, you know, and we've been thinking about it. And, you know, I think what I want you folks to know is that we really understand our responsibilities here. Our responsibility to our customer, who is the college, our responsibility to the American taxpayer, who helped, you know, provide the money that made us able to finance this, and our responsibility to the community. To do anything less would not be to fulfill our mission. So I don't know what the future is going to look like 6 months from now, a year from now, 10 years from now, but I want you to know that we believe in the community. That's why we invested in the college in the first place. It's why we've invested in your wastewater infrastructure. It's why we've invested in housing in this town, in small businesses in this town. And we're going to be here, and we're going to work with you. So I just want to make sure that you folks understand that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Other members of the visiting team that have a reflection to share.
Lucy. Hi, Paul. Karen Spalfora.
Hi, Karen.
Hi, Castleton University. First, I want to comment on, this is my 16th month in Vermont. And coming to meetings like this just confirms my decision to move here and to make Vermont my home. So I appreciate all the things that I've heard. There were certain themes that resonated with me, of course, education being one of them. I thought there were a lot of great ideas that came out of the community folks. As you were all talking, I was jotting down notes, and I have this thought that may or may not work. But if you look at New England as a destination for high school boarding schools, in New Hampshire, you have Exeter, you have in Connecticut, you have several actually in Vermont, including St. Johnsbury Academy. Wilbraham Munson Academy just over the border in Massachusetts. If you look at these schools and the students that they draw, acceptance rates are between 20 and 40%. Populations are upwards of 40% international students, which Vermont does a nice job drawing international students to the area. And this is an opportunity with tuitions that range between $50,000 and $60,000 a year to draw resources and families and young people to the area. So it's something to think about.
Thank you so much. Let's hold our applause till the end. And other folks on the team have an observation or reflection? Yes, sir. Josh.
Josh Hanford. One reflection, this is a minor initial step, but I think people want action. There was discussion about maybe hiring someone to lead the town's efforts here and make sure their interests. There's a lot of great ideas. Some of them might not be universally supported, but a grant or some support from the state or one of our partners to help the town hire a community development director, someone to lead this energy and make sure it doesn't go away and their success comes out of this, I think would be an immediate early step to take.
Thanks, Josh. Other perspectives from the visiting team in terms of what you've heard or thoughts in both? Yes, Mike?
Michael Moser, UVM Center for Rural Studies. Just listening, was really impressed with the willingness of everyone in this community to be open to lots of different ideas and lots of different ideas for this campus that may not be, the ideal scenarios like, providing residential treatment or things like that. I was really impressed with everyone's openness to suggesting that. And, I was thinking that, and then something else that came to mind was just a couple people mentioned silos, and I think it is very important for the townspeople and the institution to have that sort of integration and that collaborative process, and I hope that there's a way to do that, maybe through the SAVE GMC or whatever that organization or interface is. But generally, I did like the idea of some sort of like residential services facility here on the campus that's maybe an educational opportunity, an educational institution where there's people being served and providing services and getting training at the same time. So that's one thing I say.
Thanks, Mike. Someone else, I saw another hand back there.
Hi, Tyler Richardson with Rutland Economic Development Corporation. First of all, I'm not surprised, but I'm inspired by the amount of people in this room. It's really incredible. Even more inspiring is, we hear as Vermonters all the time how young folks are trying to get out of Vermont, right? Look how many young folks around here are engaged and want to stay in the Pulteney community. And we have Wyatt and Kyle and Danny and this gentleman, Jamel, who I've seen for the second time in 2 weeks. At one of these type of meetings, they really want to be involved and build this community. It's very inspiring. Just an observation.
Thanks, Tyler. Other observations from visiting team members? Yes, ma'am.
Hi, I'm Haley Carroll from Senator Bernie Sanders' office, and similar to what Tyler just mentioned, I'm really impressed by the commitment of the students and the alumni, not just to the college, but to the community. And I think you had mentioned that even if the college goes away, the mission can remain. So I think that's really important to keep in mind.
Thank you. Anyone else on the team? Yes.
I am Chris Saunders with Senator Leahy's office, and the center has a long history of working with Green Mountain College and the town of Pulteney. About a decade ago, in partnership with the Preservation Trust, helped open Bentley Hall so that it was available to the community and invested resources through a program he was working on and in partnership with USDA. That's, I think, brilliant. He would be encouraged to hear the stories and the narrative today about how engaged the community is with this place. And I know that as the conversation goes forward about what the college will look like in the future, maintaining that public presence, he will be very engaged in trying to help bring resources and ideas to bear to make sure that the community of Pulteney can remain strong. So thank you for all the ideas that are out there today, and we'll be standing with you.
Thank you, Chris. Others on the team? Yes.
Hi, I'm Elizabeth Morris. I'm the last of your federal delegation from Congressman Peter Welch's office. I just wanted to echo some of the similar comments I've heard. He wishes he could be here himself, and him and some of my colleagues have been in contact with Bob Allen, and just continue to think of us as a resource and sustainable, and a wonderful representation about everything that's amazing about living in Vermont. And we want to make sure that it continues to stay that way. So thank you all for being here.
Okay. Congressman Welch is in favor of this project. Yes. Speak up, they can hear around.
Gary Holloway, Department of Housing and Development. I manage downtown program for the state. Hopefully one of those communities. I just want to kind of reflect back on what I heard folks say about the community here. It's really impressive. We had over 200 folks here. I heard the word sustainability mentioned probably 50 times today. I think that's really it sounds to me that's really the core of what this community is sustainability. And one of the ingredients we see in communities all across the state, what makes them successful is the strength of the community. And so it's probably going to get more difficult than it is going to get easier from this point. So I just encourage you all, whether you have different ideas on what this could be, to really keep an open mind and continue to come together and have those difficult conversations. It probably is going to take several different of those ideas to come together to really make this campus flourish and continue on. So just know that you have resources around the state, from the federal government, the state government, the various partners who are here willing to support any ideas that the community has.
Thanks, Gary. So I'm going to share an observation and then turn it back to Ted. The one thing that strikes me is there's this echoing idea of incubating something big here. And then there's been this sort of dialectical back and forth thing about being a place that helps to answer challenges way beyond this place and model opportunities and ideas for the future. When you think about that big picture of the future, there's a world of change coming globally. And being a place that helps to answer some of the global challenges that we face around democracy potentially, around social justice, around climate. These are enormous opportunities that are going to rally the next generation, that are going to build businesses. And as Danny Kennedy, who came to our Climate Economy Summit, said, this is the greatest economic opportunity in world history, and everyone should be looking for how to capture market share. So big, grand ideas. How does that land in Polk? Fascinating question to me. At VCRD, we love this kind of conversation, and we believe that it needs to add up. So I just mentioned to Ted that if it was useful to this community, for us and Ted and potentially other partners here to come back and to put on the wall your ideas from today, evaluate them, champion what's most important, and potentially choose 3 or 4 priorities that would be core ideas from this community that would then be engaged in this larger discussion with whoever ends up moving forward with the project here, including the community. We'd be willing to do that if it was useful to folks. So that's an offer on the table, and I commend Paul for his leadership. I also commend Bob Allen. It's not easy to be a serious ship in a terrible storm, and you take the heat. The buck always lands with you, and it's very difficult personally, so thank you, Bob, for being on the
So though this concludes today, this does not conclude our process. I want to simply reflect on what I heard today and encourage folks to take action. So we have, when Governor Scott heard that this was happening, he told the Agency of Commerce to get here and told the Agency of Commerce to bring as many people as possible down here to get working on this problem. That's a long-term process. We see that. What I heard today was that there's also 2 processes. There's the town of Poultney and what the town has to do to create a vibrant, interesting community and sustain that vibrant, interesting community no matter who this tenant is. And also what the town has to do to create an authorizing environment for whatever the next phase of the Green Mountain College campus is to succeed. You as the town are going to be asked to do something in the future of this property. It might be just show up. It might be just say yes. It might be make an investment in your downtown. It might be support some aspect of what's happening here. I don't know what that is. But I think what I hear is a dramatic need for all of us to create an authorizing environment for somebody to do something great on this campus. And also, a tremendous desire of everybody in this room to influence what that outcome is. And that's a really complicated thing, right? Because it's likely that several things could happen. It could be a private entity, as it was alluded to, that comes and purchases campus to do something they envision. Well, how does the town influence that? You do that by organizing. You do that by having a group of groups that's saying the same message and that's advocating for things so that all 3,000 people that couldn't be here today are rallying behind whatever does happen and influences what does happen on this campus. I want to, as Paul just said, we are happy that this is meant to be the beginning. People like Paul Bruin, people like your congressional delegation, people like Elizabeth Marks from the Vermont Community Foundation, this is meant to be the handshake. This is meant to be to put these people on speed dial, so when you have these ideas, you go to them and you get counsel on how to make that idea happen. That's the fundamental reason we're doing this today. And now we've heard what you're thinking. You also have this long list of great ideas which we'll catalog and bring back to you. Chances are nobody's going to grab your idea that you put out there today and make it happen, right? We have to make it happen. That's a hard reality of this. So when we look at those ideas, let's come up with ways to make it happen and try to influence them. So I want to take a bunch of questions. I can't open the floodgate. I will talk to you right afterwards, if that's okay.
No, you're good.
Go straight to you, though, right afterwards?
You're fine. Go ahead.
I want to say one thing. You're making an offer, we got what, 10 weeks before graduation? Do it now, okay? Do it now.
Message heard. Understand the urgency. That is a really important thing to take away. We understand the urgency. I don't want to pretend like the solution is going to magically happen in a couple of weeks here, but I'm committed, the people in this room are committed to putting brain power, physical power, and time on the road coming to Pulteney to try to make, try to help you make something happen. So I have to wrap this up. We will talk right after. I'll come straight over to you.
Is this your top priority?
This is, at the Agency of Commerce, I can tell you this. We do not have another community that's facing this large of a challenge right now. So I want to be clear that this is one of the top things that we are concerned about, is trying to help Pulteney weather this storm and do great things. So thank you, everybody. The visiting team could come visit with me up at this front table right after this. That would be fantastic. Thank you, everybody. Have a great day. Thanks for giving up time of your work schedules, your family schedules, and everything else. Thank you. So I'm sorry. That was good.
Oh, I wanted people to hear your answer. My question is, where do we go from here?